My name is Wolfthrone from Wolfthrone Studios, and today I'm going to show you how I record drums, and especially black metal drums, and what I'm thinking of when I'm placing the microphones to capture the kit so it will fit in the way I like to mix black metal drums. Like for instance, I have chosen in this studio to not use room microphones when recording black metal specifically. And the reason to that is basically two reasons. First of all, if you look around, I have treated this studio to be dead silent. As you can hear when I'm tapping my hands, it's basically no room sound, so to speak. And the reason you would put room microphones is basically to glue the drum kit to sound much more as one package. But when I mix black metal, I like to use big reverbs anyway. So for me, the drums doesn't necessarily have to be glued in that way, because I like to wide pan the toms, especially so when it comes to this long tom fills, I want them to start from the left and end far away in the right side, for instance. So that is one reason I don't use room microphones today. And the first thing I would do when I have a band here to record drums, I now place the cymbals really low so I can demonstrate what I would ask the drummer to do, is to raise the cymbals as high up as possible, because I think that will help the sound when it comes to mixing the close mics. You want to keep the cymbals as far away as possible to avoid the leak from the cymbals into the close mics. So for me, I'm a drummer since I was 11 years old, and in the past 10 years, when I have been a producer, I have learned to play with the cymbals really far up. So I would put them something like this maybe to start with. And I take the other one. This is like a golden situation for me if I would have a drummer here that would by themselves put basically all the cymbals really high up, so they're as far away as possible from the skins. So when I want to gate the close mics later when mixing it, if they're this far up, it will be no problem, and I have much more control to mix the drums how I want them. When you start compressing them a lot, these toms and snare for instance, you will get a lot of what the cymbals are leaking into the mic. So this is a really good starting point. So what we can do now is, I like to start with the overheads. And my philosophy when it comes to miking overheads is to try to capture the width of the drum kit. So I would, let's say, start with this microphone and aim it towards the snare. And I like to go with the microphone pretty straight above the first cymbal like this, and aim it a little bit towards the center of the snare and keep it, I don't know how many centimeters it is, but I would say a drumstick is pretty good length above, so the cymbal is not too close but also not too far away to capture the detail of the cymbals. So I will now aim this towards the snare drum like this, and then we go to the next, and I do the same principle. I go straight above this second crash, and then I aim it towards the center of the snare like this. And the second step I would do now is I want the snare to be in the middle of the drum kit when I take these two microphones and pan them left and right. So now I will go to the drummer's position, and to measure that I have just a simple shoe rod. So if you say this is I think this microphone is in a good position, I measure the distance from the center of the snare drum to the microphone like this. Then check the other one. And now I was lucky. They are in the right position already, so I don't have to do so much. Just angle this little much more towards the center of the snare drum like this. Another thing that I think of is also to try to have the overhead microphones not too close to each other, but also not too far wide. But this, I would say, is maybe the minimum distance you need with the width. If they would be closer, it would start to sound, in my opinion, weird listening back. If I want them to be so spread that it feels like this one is on the one side and this one is actually on the other side. If these are too close, these cymbals will start to sound like they're both in the middle, and I try to avoid that. And I chose to have today also a China cymbal. And as we all know, in black metal, Chinas, they need to be powerful. And as you can see also, this China is pretty far away from the overhead microphone, so I chose to put, of course, another microphone on that one as a spot microphone, so I can also control the volume on the China in the mix. And one thing I think of when miking this little bit smaller China cymbals is to position them, the microphone, right above the cymbal itself, so it's in the middle like this. And a good distance for me is pretty much half a drumstick. So I can see, yeah, I can come a little bit closer, and that I will do now. This maybe. This looks pretty good starting point. But if I aim it straight in the middle, it doesn't pick up the character of the China really well. So an easy solution to that is to take the microphone and just aim it towards the edge of the cymbal, where you can pick up the sound of the China much more, and then you also avoid the more hiss sound that the cymbal is creating by if it's too aimed towards the center. So this is a good starting point for me. And also I want to have full control of the China in the mix. So if I have it aimed like this, it's a little chance that it picks up too much of the ride cymbal. So also turn it a little bit away from that. So now it's aiming around here instead of here. So this would be a good starting point for me, at least. Something like this. So for the hi-hat, I follow the same principle as I did with the China, actually. That I like to start with the microphone pretty close to the center of the hi-hat. Not exactly in the center, but around here is a good starting point. And when I mix the hi-hat, I always blend it in with the overheads. I don't want the hi-hat per se to sound like it's separate from the general drum sound. So I don't want it too close to the hi-hat, because if I do that, you will hear that it's a separate microphone on it, and everything is up to taste, but my taste is to make the hi-hat blend with the overhead track, so I go a little bit higher up than like this. I would say maybe a hand is pretty good, and then I do the same principle as I did with the China, that I start by pointing it straight down and then I turn it towards the edge, because I think the hi-hat have better sound the closer to the edge you get. And I like to put the microphone on top of the hi-hat instead of from the side, for instance, because if you're above it, you don't get the air pushing out of the hi-hat so much, and that is really nice. Something like this, maybe a little bit more down, like a hand normal is pretty good like this. Yes, that is definitely a good starting point. And for the ride microphone, I like when the ride is really in your face when you mix it. So I like to come pretty close with the ride. So I would go something like this. I like to be pretty close to the bell, and the closer I get, it will be easier to not have it so loud in the mix to get it heard. And if I can have it low in the mix, it's really good for me that I have more control of it. If I want less of it, I can just take down the volume, and if I want more of it, I can raise it quite a lot without the rest of the cymbal starting to be heard from this microphone, which is a good thing. So I'll try to go pretty close, aim it towards actually as much in the middle as possible, because when you hit the ride, you get I want to get as much attack as possible basically. And ride for me in black metal is one of the most driving forces when it comes to blast beats and stuff, so it needs to be heard and controlled. And for the kick drums, I have chosen to go with 2 kick drums, but I have the same microphone on both. And when I mic the kick drums, I have learned that if you go too far inside the kick drum, it gets too clicky for my taste and a little bit lacking the low end of the kick drum itself. So for me, I don't think too much nowadays while miking it. I just put it right inside like this. It's a good starting point for me. And now I can aim it towards the center. And if I go too far in also, you get too much snare drum in the microphone because you're getting closer to the snare. So it will be harder to mix it. You start to compress it and suddenly you hear as much snare drum as kick drum in the bass drum mic, which is not a good thing. So I will do the exact same with the second kick drum. I put it straight inside the middle, just inside it like this. Yeah, that is how I have been miking kick drums here for past couple of years. And next step would be to put the microphones on the toms. And also this is black metal, so I have chosen to tune them, as you can hear, pretty low. And these are really deep toms, so they have a lot of body that I want to capture. And that will also affect how I think when it comes to miking the toms. If they were smaller and I would want to have a more attacky sound, I would point the microphone on the in the middle of the skin to get as much attack as possible. But now I have a philosophy that I want to capture as much body as I can and also as much attack as I can, and at the same time avoiding as much bleed as possible from the cymbals. So now when I'm looking at where this tom is positioned, it's in really good spot because I have first of all the cymbals really far up away from it. So I chosen to go right under the cymbal to avoid as much bleed as possible from the cymbal. And one thing I like to do when miking toms is to not be too close to the edge, because if you're too close to the edge, it tends to pick up some nasty frequencies and resonances that I don't like so much. So I try to come in like 2 fingers or something. I don't measure it too precise. And I like to be pretty far away from the skin to get a more rounder sound and not too much of the proximity effect. And then I try to aim it around. If this is dead center, right now I'm pointing it in the between. So here's the edge, here is the middle, and I like to aim the microphone around here. Then you get plenty of attack, but you're also picking up a lot of the body of the tom sound itself. So for me this would be a really nice starting point to put the microphone. And the same principle goes for this second tom. I will go right under the cymbal, couple of centimeters in, like this. I will raise the stand a little bit. Then I aim it towards here around. That is a good starting point for me. Something like this. And of course I have old skins now, and normally when I have a real session, the first thing I do is to check that the skins are in good condition. If they are not, I'm just replacing the skins with new ones. But for this demonstration, these are good enough. And yes, then we go to the last tom, which is the floor tom. This one is always interesting because you need to know from the beginning what you wanna capture. Do you want it to sound like extremely big with deep low end? Then I would go with a kick microphone actually, to blend it in to make it sound as massive as possible. You can achieve the same sound with the SM57 that I have chosen now by EQing it a lot and using a lot of plugins to achieve that sound. Today I think I want to capture more the attack of the floor tom itself. So I chosen the SM57. It's a good microphone in general for drums. And the same principle is followed here, that I like to aim it around in the between center and the edge, and just come in a couple of centimeters like this, but not to have it too close to the skin. Something like this is pretty good. 4 fingers in general are pretty good for floor toms. It has worked for me over the years, so this would be a good starting position for me. Yes, and the last piece is of course the most important one, the snare drum. And for the bottom mic I have chosen to go with the Sennheiser 906. It's a little bit brighter microphone than the SM57, and it works for me to have a little bit brighter microphone on the bottom skin, because I like a more snappy, bright snare drum in general. So I have chosen to put it almost in the center of the snare drum, aiming towards the resonant, what are they called? The the wires that are making the snare sound. The top of the snare drum, I like to go normally with an Audix i5, but I have today chosen to go with the SM57 because most of you guys have that anyway, and it's the most common microphone. I have already placed the microphone how I would like to have it. Not as far inside the rim as I would go with the toms, but just a little bit. Like now I have it, I would say 2 centimeters inside. If I would go further back so it's lined with this edge, it will pick up a ringing sound that is not so pleasant for me, at least. But I like to go a little bit more towards the center aim with this microphone, because I like when snare drums are really attacky. So if I would go more towards in the between center and edge, it will not pick up as much attack as I would like. So I try to have it at least around this area, because when I do blast beats, I don't play in the middle, I play on the side. So it's even better if it's around here aimed. Yeah, that is pretty much how I do when I mic up a drum kit. And of course, different genres, little bit different ways of thinking, but this channel is about black metal, and I have chosen to teach you how I think when doing black metal. Of course, you want to hear how it sounds like when they are mic'd in this way, so I will play a little bit for you so you can get an idea of what it sounds like with this setup. Yes, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching. I was thinking to make one more of these 1-minute black metal songs that I record and mix and have a mixing tutorial for you, because I have been reading the comments and I have seen that some of you are requested more of these mixing tutorials. So thank you for watching, and till next time.